Today, I want to say something that might be uncomfortable for some of you to hear. The fact that your home is paid off or close to it is not the same thing as being ready for retirement. I know that probably runs counter to everything you were taught. A paid off home has long been the crowning symbol of financial arrival. You made it, you own it, you're safe, you've won retirement. But here's what I've come to understand through my own 2 retirements and through the conversations I have every week with people who are right in the middle of this transition. A paid off home can create the feeling of financial security without actually delivering it. And those two things are very different. Let me give you a number that will set the stage for everything that follows. Housing wealth among homeowners 62 and older has climbed to a record 14.66 trillion. That's trillion with a T. At the same time, the National Institute on Retirement Security reports that the average worker between 21 and 64 has less than $1,000 saved for retirement. Even among people with employer-assisted savings accounts, the median balance is just $40,000. And Northwestern Mutual's 2025 Planning and Progress study tells us that Americans believe they'll need $1.26 million to retire comfortably. So we have people sitting on record amounts of housing wealth and simultaneously facing a retirement savings crisis. That gap is not a coincidence. It's a pattern, and it has a name: the equity trap. Here's how the equity trap works. You spend 30 years building equity in your home. The market cooperates, and over the past decade especially, it cooperated very generously. Home prices climbed 31% in real terms between 2019 and 2024, according to Vanguard. For many homeowners, that appreciation was the single largest wealth building event of their lives. And so the paid off home starts to feel like the answer. The retirement account might be underfunded, the pension might be modest, but the house is worth something. Surely that counts. It does count. But here's what the equity trap obscures. Your house is not a retirement income stream. It is a single, illiquid, undiversified asset tied to one street, one school district, one local economy, and one real estate market cycle. As Kiplinger puts it plainly, you can't sell the bathroom to fund an unexpected expense. Liquidity tends to show up only at the time of sale, and the time of sale is often not when you want to be making major financial moves. Let's talk about concentration risk, because this is where I think the conversation becomes especially pointed. If you had a financial advisor who put 80% of your investment portfolio into a single stock, you'd find a different advisor. That level of concentration in one asset, regardless of how good the asset is considered imprudent. The downside risk is simply too large, and yet many people entering retirement have exactly that kind of concentration in their home. The National Association of Realtors research shows that homeowners in their 60s have typically accumulated about $200,000 or more in housing wealth from appreciation alone. Meanwhile, that same population holds a median retirement savings that is 5 times smaller. In other words, the house is the portfolio. Now, home values have generally trended upward over the long arc. I'm not telling you they haven't, but consider what happened just recently. According to Cotality's Q3 2025 Homeowner Equity Report, overall homeowner equity declined by $373.8 billion year over year. The average homeowner lost $13,400 in equity in a single year. And the number of homeowners in negative equity rose 21% year over year. Markets move. Local markets move more dramatically than national averages suggest. And a single retirement plan that depends on a single asset holding its value and being sellable at the right moment is more fragile than it looks. This brings me to what I think is the most quietly dangerous assumption in retirement housing. I can always sell it if I need to. Can you? Let's think about what that actually requires. Selling a home requires a functioning market, which is not guaranteed in every location at every moment in time. It requires you to be in a position physically and emotionally to manage a sale. It requires time, typically months from decision to closing, and it often happens at exactly the moment when the rest of your financial picture is also under stress. A health event, a market downturn, a spouse's death, a long-term care need. Selling under duress is not the same thing as selling strategically. The people who win at this game of making the cleanest housing transitions in retirement are the ones who make the decision on their own terms, not the ones who waited until life circumstances made that decision for them. There's also the emotional aspect. It's real and it's powerful, and I want to be respectful of it. The Fannie Mae Housing Survey found that the top reasons retirees stay in their homes are a love of the home, familiarity and comfort with the area, and the fact that it's paid off. Those are legitimate reasons, and I'm not dismissing them, but love of a home is not a financial strategy. And comfort with an area is worth interrogating because sometimes what feels like comfort is actually inertia. Staying in default mode rather than proactively moving into design mode can cost you. Here's what I want to be clear about, and I'm not saying your home equity is irrelevant. It's enormously relevant. What I am saying is that equity that is frozen inside a house and equity that is deployed and working hard for you are two entirely different things. Morgan Stanley's research modeled a scenario that illustrates this very principle. A retiree sells her home prior to retiring and uses the proceeds to downsize into a smaller owned property. And eventually, when her portfolio is more depleted, she sells that second home and moves into a rental. In their modeling, that sequenced approach substantially reduces the probability of running out of money in retirement. This equity did not disappear. It was put to work strategically in stages rather than sitting frozen in a house she no longer fully needed. That's the difference between a home as a static symbol of security and a home as a dynamic tool in a retirement design. The options for deploying equity are real. A strategic downsizing that captures appreciation and reduces carrying costs. A sale that frees up capital for income-producing investments. Each of these is a different tool with different costs and implications, and each is worth understanding rather than dismissing. So where does this leave you? If you're in or near retirement, I want you to hold two things at once. First, your home equity is real wealth. Don't minimize it. It has likely been one of the most significant financial achievements of your adult life. Second, real wealth that isn't accessible, isn't diversified, and can't be converted to income without a major life transaction is not the same as retirement security. It is potential security, and potential is only as good as the plan that activates it. Here's the question I'd encourage you to sit with. If your home were a stock in your portfolio, would your financial advisor call it diversified? Would they call it liquid? Would they call it the right allocation for someone living on a fixed income who needs monthly cash flow? If the answer to any of these questions is no, that's not a reason to panic. It's a reason to plan. The goal of designing retirement isn't to make you anxious about what you have or don't have. It's to help you see it clearly so you can make intentional choices about what comes next. A paid-off home is a wonderful thing to have. It is not by itself a retirement plan. In the next video in this series, we're going to get into the specific hidden costs that make even a fully paid off home more expensive than most people realize, because there's a number hiding inside your homeownership that very few people have actually calculated. If you don't want to miss that one, make sure you're subscribed. And if this video raised questions about your specific housing picture and how it fits into your broader retirement design, that is exactly the kind of conversation I have in one-on-one consultations. The link to book is in the description below. I look forward to seeing you in the next video.